안녕하세요. Hello, Purple Angels. Sophie Sam here, and today I have a very special video for you. So this video is on 6 tips to learn Korean as an English speaker for beginners. Okay, let's get started. Understanding the importance of culture. So when you're starting to learn Korean, the first thing that you must, I'm going to say appreciate, not necessarily understand, but appreciate is that there will be a big difference in culture that is reflected through language. One of the most important things about Korean culture is hierarchy and respect. We actually like to call ourselves the country of respect. And so this overall, let's call it theme, this overall concept of culture is deeply, deeply embedded into a lot of the traditions that we have, the values, the beliefs, and of course, the language. So in a very, very small nutshell, we can say that in Korea, we believe that you need to respect people who are older than us, people who are higher up in social hierarchy than us, and then people who we don't know very well, so you don't have a close relationship with them. So to these types of people, you need to speak to them differently. You would speak about them differently, and you would actually also act towards them or even around them very, very differently. So to relate this back to language, we have 2 languages in Korean. We have 존댓말, also known as the formal language, and then we also have 반말, which is the casual language. So to the previously mentioned types of people, we need to speak formally to them. Make pronunciation your top priority. What I see way too often with a lot of students are people who put too much focus on written Korean. So this is learning a whole bunch of new words all the time, practicing your grammar all in writing. Of course, this is important. It's not important, but I believe that pronunciation needs to be at the top of your priorities list. And this is because, think of it this way, if you cannot pronounce a word properly, then you won't be understood. If you're not pronouncing a word properly, chances are that you haven't made the association in your head between the correct pronunciation of this word and the meaning of this word. The association is not linked properly in your head. And so chances are that when you hear the proper pronunciation of the word by a native Korean speaker, you won't actually be able to understand it, even though it's a word that you already know. Now, tips on actually improving your Korean pronunciation is a whole huge story for another day, and I'll do another session on that next time. But the biggest tip that I can give you today is to practice your pronunciation slowly. The main difference between Korean pronunciation and English pronunciation is the fact that Korean pronunciation, it's syllable by syllable. The syllables don't merge into each other like they do in English. And so to perfect this, you need to speak really slowly and practice at a turtle's pace initially. Speaking really slowly also means that you can be completely aware of what your mouth is doing. What shape is my mouth moving in? Where is the placement of my tongue? What is my throat doing? So speaking slowly enables you to feel these things as you speak. And again, this will help improve the accuracy of your Korean pronunciation. Having a proper memorizing system. So you want to make things simple for yourself, and you want to make things consistent in the way that you learn things. So when you are learning new words and you need to memorize these new words, what you don't want to do is just scribble them somewhere in your notebook, because they will get lost. Have a proper way of organizing your words and a proper system to help you then memorize those words. What I would probably recommend you do when you're learning a new word is to hear the word, let's say the word is 사랑, which means love. You want to put it into your vocab list. This is your own personal dictionary that you've started. And then what I'm going to do is add this word to my memorizing system. So whether that is flashcards are really useful. It could be an app that you use to add in your virtual flashcards. It could be post-it notes around the house, or a whiteboard that you write your new words on. Whatever it is, you need to have a separate system to just writing them down that's going to help you actually memorize these words. Quick tip here, make sure you're not writing every single word you hear down in your memorizing system. There are literally millions of words out there, and there's no way that you're going to remember all of them. That is just a fact. So pick and choose. Pick and choose the words that are important to you, words that you know for a fact you're going to use on a daily basis. Do not translate word for word. Now this is really, really important, but it's not going to be easy. It is a particular way of thinking that you need to start training yourself to do. As we spoke about previously, language is an expression. It's not really that much to do with the words themselves. And so when you have an English sentence and you want to say it in Korean, you don't want to translate every single word because that will never work out. What you instead need to do is think about two things. Is it an expression? What is the sentence structure? When you have figured those two things out, then go ahead and translate. Remember words and phrases through situations, not meaning. Now think of it this way. The person who created Korean and the person who created English, they did not sit at a table side by side and go, okay, what are you going to call this? What are you going to call this? They did not compare words to each other and then decide what that would be called in each respective language. And they did not have a discussion about how expressions are going to work. So we're going to express this in that way. So you need to do the same in your language, but just say it in Korean. No, that's not what happened. Which obviously then means that every language, not just Korean and English, they're going to have their own set of expressions. They have different ways they express certain feelings, situations, people, lives, etc., all of those fancy words from before. Plus, there are also going to be particular words, single words that could also be different in different languages. So, to remember and understand these kinds of words and phrases that do not, let's say, exist in English or are expressed in a different way in English, what you need to do is to not remember them by the meaning of the word, but by the situation in which you would use them. I'll give you a really easy example. 대박! So, 대박 is a word in Korean that does not exist in English. And so what we don't want to do is translate this word for word, because 대박 could mean big incident. And so you might be thinking, big incident, when the hell am I going to use that word? But we're going to remember it in the situation in which I might say this word. I'll give you another example. Let's take a phrase. So in Korean we say 아니에요, which technically translates to it is not, which again sounds very strange in English, but we use 아니에요 in instances like a response to thank you. If someone says, thank you so much for doing this, you can say 아니에요, as in, no, it's okay, you don't have to thank me. But then of course you can say it for when you're saying no, it's not. And then so when that situation arises, I can just look into my mental encyclopedia of Korean phrases and just copy and paste, use that phrase. Be efficient in your note-taking. Now this final tip is quite specifically for people who are learning Korean to speak and understand on a conversational level. and not necessarily for people who are learning Korean to take like a Korean proficiency test, like the topic test. And that tip is to be really, really efficient in how you take notes. Because, again, going back to our previous tip, this is not actually going to help you with your speaking and your pronunciation. You're just going to be really good at writing. So I suggest that you just have 2 notebooks. I like to call this your nice notebook and your not nice notebook. So your nice notebook is where you put all of the important information, the details, the formulas, and your vocab. At the back of this notebook, you could have your vocab lists. So your lists of nouns, your verbs, and your adjectives. So this is your main encyclopedia for your Korean. When you need to know something, you only have 1 notebook to look for. And then you have your not nice notebook. So this is where you just quickly scribble your notes. When you're practicing a certain word, practicing a particular sentence structure that you've just learnt, and you're just writing sentences for practice, that all goes in your not nice notebook, which means you know that there's no important information in there. It's just for practice use. The most important thing is to not overwhelm yourself. Take it step by step, okay? What you learn today is the only thing that matters for today. And then tomorrow, you can learn what you need to learn for that day. And then you're just taking it 1 day at a time. It's not a race, it's not a competition against anyone, not even with yourself, okay? The most important thing is that you have fun. You are understanding things rather than purely memorizing it, and then you'll find it a lot more interesting as well. And then before you know it, you'll be understanding all sorts of words when you're watching your Korean content, and you will surprise yourself. If you're a beginner and you're wanting to learn Korean with myself, we have a new intake of complete beginners group classes starting very soon. So details are in the description below, and I have a special discount for all of you who have watched this particular video. For anyone who is a little bit more advanced, I have study tips coming up for you very, very soon, so keep your eyes peeled for that. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching this today, guys. Really, really well done. I know everyone is working really hard. Any questions, let me know in the comments. But otherwise, I will see you again next week. 감사합니다. 안녕히 가세요.